we're going to go now to Chambers and Ed McAlpine's garden in Moraga. So Anne and Ed, who have attended the tour since its inception in 2005, hired Four Dimensions Landscape Company to design and install their garden. This is their front yard before photo. Here's the front yard after photo, and one more in the front yard. And now we'll go and look at the backyard. So this is, it's a very long lot. So this is half of the backyard before looking at the pool. This is the other side. We've turned around now. We're looking at the other half of the backyard before. And this is the after photo. So Anne and Ed wanted a garden that was productive for both wildlife and people. They were interested in gardening fruit and having fruit trees, and gardening for edibles as well as native plants. The swimming pool, lawn, and Monterey pines were removed, and space for growing edibles was created. 30 fruit trees have been planted in this quarter-acre garden, and a plethora of vegetables are grown. In the apocalypse, theirs is the garden that we all want to go to. The balance of this garden that's not fruit trees and vegetables was planted with mostly local California native plants, which make a charming understory to the fruit trees. We'll be hearing about both the edibles and also the natives in this garden tour. If you would be interested in having Four Dimensions Landscape Company design and install a garden for you, you will find their contact information under Find a Designer on the tour's website. So let's go now to see Ed and Anne. Hello, in their own garden. Hi, Ed.
No, she's supposed to switch. Right? Okay. Hi, can you see me?
I can see Ed, and I can hear you. So we're off to a good start. They're tap the screen, I think, and then there's a little button up.
Right.
Go. Now I see you in the house. So take
it, guys. All right, are we good to go?
You're good.
All right. All right. So we've lived in this house. We moved here in 2003. And when we moved, most of the landscaping in the front was, there's a car coming, was drought tolerant Mediterranean. So not so different than it looks at right now, except for the left-hand bed. But when we moved, we've been vegetable gardeners for some time. And so we really focused on building out our vegetable garden and planting maybe 10 fruit trees. And so, but what caused us to decide to build a native landscape was that we decided to take out our pool, which I think you just saw a photo of. And so we really focused on the back and developing the native landscape along with our vegetable garden, and also adding in quite a few more fruit trees. So we attended the garden tour since inception, and we had seen some of the gardens by Michael Tilgen of Four Dimensions. And so we decided to hire him because we didn't know that much about natives per se. We love to backpack, we love to hike. We really love the idea of having something that's native, that's gonna, support wildlife, birds, etc. We love seeing plants that, we see when we go hiking, but we didn't really know where to start and which ones were which. So and also we wanted to have something that was beautiful. So with that, and that's what we got, by the way, with that, let's go start with the tour. We'll start with the front and just talk a little bit about the left-hand section that was converted to natives. Now, the reason why we really wanted to convert it was we had a patch of grass in it, and of course it didn't thrive at all. And we were just tired of struggling to mow it and to keep it happy, which it never was. So that was really the impetus for for doing the native landscaping here. And so I want to just point out a few of the plants, the things that we love about the front. The first thing is we have some wachera or alum roots. So these are early blooming and they're bee attractants. So the bees just love it when they blossom. Uh, we planted a lot of grasses. You'll see fescues, mostly fescues and some sedges. But the nice thing is we don't have to take care of it very much. We just cut it back really twice a year. So the idea is that it's more of a like a like a prairie or something, a little more naturalistic looking. And then the other plants that we are kind of note is the coffee berry. So very happy happy shrub. It gets these wonderful red berries in the fall. And then we also have a live oak. So this was a volunteer. So some squirrel just buried the acorn and it grew and it was in a great place. So we said, hey, let's just let it go. So as this is growing in, we're going to probably take out our birch so that the oak can grow even more. And we have another one coming up too in a great place. So that's our plan, is to let the oaks take over. And then finally, we have a pineapple guava. So this is um, part of our approach was to integrate the edibles with the natives. So we have a pineapple guava there as well as a shrub. And with that, I think we can head on into the back. And so let's take a walk here. So one story I just wanted to tell was we both watched the Doug Tallamy uh, talk for on the first day of the tour, and we'd had some agapanthus in the yard, I think, for when we moved in, and when Ed found out on the talk during the talk that it supports zero caterpillars for bird life, he ran out in the middle of the talk and dug up the agapanthus that were right here. So now we realize we have a place to plant a tree. So now we're using the cowscape and thinking about what kind of native tree we want to plant. So uh, so anyway, just enjoyed the talk. And oh, one more thing to point out is again, kind of integrating the edibles, is we have these Nile onions here. So these are onions, they're also called top onions or walking onions, and they grow a little onion at the top and you can eat them. They're very strong. They're kind of like garlic. And then the way they propagate is they sort of flop over out of their weight and then, the next one grows. So this was started from, I think we brought back just a couple from Ed's mom in Rhode Island. And now, of course, it's they propagated quite a bit, but we eat them in the summer. And again, it's sort of integrated with all of the other drought tolerant. These are more Mediterranean type plants here. But part of our idea to have the landscaping both edible and native and beautiful. So this is our side yard. It's in terms of the vegetables, we've sort of got designated for the annuals. We've got designated beds. And so the side yard is pretty much devoted to our vegetable garden. So we have tomatoes all along the side. I think this is about 40 feet long, so it's good size. We have some herbs, some thyme, mint, lettuces here along the side, fennel, zucchini, more tomatoes, and then some winter squash as well, and some radicchio, some celery. And so now we're entering the backyard, which is really what we've converted to natives. And maybe we'll just stand here and take a look at it and talk a little bit about. Ed, do you want to showcase the rest of the yard from this point of view? And so the yard, as Kathy mentioned, is very long. And so the big things we did was we took out our pool, and we also had a whole area that was in lawn. Again, a struggle to keep it mowed and to keep it healthy and so forth. So we decided to just get rid of the lawn, and we planted sort of an orchard area there. Although we have fruit trees all kind of along some of the perimeter of the property as well. And then the main other thing we did was we had a lot of terracing on the hill, and it was the sort of wood, like a wood fence kind of terracing. So it didn't look natural at all. And so what we did was, working with Michael, is we really used a lot of rocks and again tried to make it look naturalistic. Um, and so it just looks quite different. And the goal really was to just be able to come out and really enjoy the yard and sort of imagine we were on one of our hikes and in the, up someplace remote and rural, even though we're in the middle of a suburb here. So, just to talk about some of these different areas. So we have over here, this area doesn't have any natives. It's just really our citrus. We have lemon, tangelo. We've got a blood orange started, and we have, for perennial beds, we have asparagus in the back, the perennial bed starting. So we've got some of the perennial edibles sort of again interspersed among all the natives. You'll see we've got artichokes. They're great sculptural addition all along here, all along the fence. And then I've got another annual bed here where I plant sunflowers. So if you look at the hill, it's really actually composed of a lot of those keystone plants I know we talked about in the Doug Tallamy talk. Up on the top and really on the perimeter, what we wanted to do was just have as much green as possible to again sort of feel like when you came into the yard you were just surrounded by green, and we didn't really want to look at our neighbor's fence all that much. And so what's planted up there are toyon, which provides a great hedge. There's some silk tassel. There's a lovely Julia Phelps mountain ceanothus. It's early to blossom. It's a deep violet, and I think it's my favorite plant actually in the yard because it's still winter, it's March. You can look outside and you start to see that just bloom with that lovely deep violet color. And then of course the native bees love it. These little bitty bees are just all over it when it's blossoming. So, and then we also have a native currant as well up on the top. Then on the second layer, we have some fruit trees. So we've got a Satsuma mandarin orange, we've got a Eureka lemon, and we've got a Bartlett pear. And then some of the plants along the hill are a mixture of edibles, of herbs. We've got sage that's blossoming. The bees are all over it. We've got a wonderful, it's called a prostrate version of a ceanothus. It's called Centennial. And it too has a very deep blue flower. And again, the bees just love it. The sand strawberries are a ground cover. They're quite aggressive, so they will definitely fill in if they, if possible. So you don't have to worry about having dirt showing. And then what was great is we put in a lot of rocks along the wall so that we could, first of all, climb up to harvest, but also to stabilize the hill and then to really add a naturalistic orientation. So I think that's it for that. Oh, and then some woolly thyme. So back to the mixing of the herbs. And then this bed over here, over to the left, is all natives. So we've got a combination of, I think the blue-eyed grass has really stopped blossoming now, but lots of blue-eyed grass, very early bloomer, grasses, fescue grasses. We've got lots of the native fuchsia. And what's great about them is in the late summer, in August, when everything else is looking very wan, they will be just a riot of red. And the hummingbirds just love them. So we can come out and just sit outside, just watch the hummingbirds just go to town, feeding off of the fuchsia. So both there's two kinds of native fuchsias, but in combination, they just love it in this bed, which is south facing, so it gets full sunlight all day long. We've also got some manzanita. So here they're coming along here, manzanita, and then the sand strawberries, ground cover in between. And then we planted a valley oak, so our native oak. There's lots of them up in the Lafayette Reservoir, just a block away from us. And the idea being that because this is south facing, it gets very hot in the summer here. And we really wanted some shade. And so we thought the idea is that this will continue to grow and provide lovely shade for us so that we can not be subject to all the sun. So next, let's talk about the water feature. So we were inspired by another garden that we saw on one of the tours that had a lovely, very naturalistic water feature. And so we decided we had to have one too. And what's great about this is it's kind of a focal point. You can see it from the house. And of course, when you turn it on, it's very calming. We enjoy it very much. And it's surrounded by, so there's all sorts of aquatic natives. And there are versions of the natives that we know that are not aquatic. So for example, this is a monkey flower. So there's two kinds of monkey flower in here. One has a red flower, and then the other, you can see the yellow is blossoming. We've got some reed grasses, some fescues, sedges, and then some California fuchsias as well. So it's really a lovely water feature. And then up at the top, I'm just going to point out, we have along the top fence, we have a table grape, and then we've got another asparagus bed. So again, back to the productive food production and beauty as well. So these are about at the end of their flowering, but we have quite a few of the these Pacific Douglas irises as well around the garden. Excuse me. So they provide a lot of interest as well, and then more of the reed grasses. And as we wander along into more of our orchard area, I'll point out that I kept some of the roses. I did like the roses, so we kept those. And again, integrating them in with the edibles and the natives. And so this is sort of the beginning of what's really our orchard area where we have most of our fruit trees. Again, artichokes, we've got oregano, a citrus, fuchsia, California fuchsia, more artichokes. So we have, I don't think I counted all these, but there's probably about 20 fruit trees in this half of the yard. And including the apricot up there. And I just want to show the apricot has this lovely yerba buena, native yerba buena below it that's sort of tumbling over the rocks. We love the yerba buena, has a wonderful smell, and this tiny little white flower that's just flowering right now. So it looks so great under all the fruit trees. I've planted more of it. But so along the perimeter, we have the fruit trees. We have apricot, we have pomegranate. We have a second pomegranate that we just planted this year. Another a native currant, pineapple guava. And then on the ground, we have Santa Rosa plum, a nectarine, a Fuyu persimmon, and some pear, a pear in the back, a Camise pear. So we were inspired to plant so many fruit trees based on a course that I took, a pruning course that was offered through the Bring Back the Natives with Ann Ralph. And she espouses a philosophy of having very small trees that you prune twice a year, with the idea that you keep the trees at a level where you can easily harvest them. You don't have to get up on a big ladder or anything. And also to be able to maintain a amount of fruit that you can actually handle instead of being overwhelmed. So as a result, I just had this huge revelation. We were thinking about what to plant at the time in our garden, and I realized I could just go to town and plant lots of fruit trees because I could keep them small. So that's what I did. Um, Ed, do we want to look at this other bed too? So we have this bed here has, again, mostly natives. We just kept the roses, which are now just starting to bloom. So we've got some fuchsias that are going to be blossoming in the late summer. Lots of blue-eyed grass, tons of blue-eyed grass, fescues, and then up on the arbor is a native grape, or really I think a hybrid of a native grape. So it's very happy there. If you plant them, beware. We have to cut it back, I think, almost every day to just keep it in check. But the grapes are quite good. You can't really eat them out of hand because they have a big seed. But I made a syrup out of them, and I'm sure they would make a great jelly, and it was super tasteful. So aside from the fact that they provide a lot of uh, lovely interest as the vine, a happy vine, and it also tastes good. So it's a great combination of edibles and natives. So moving along, do we want to talk about this? I think our meadow area. So this area here is really in our orchard area, but this is what we call the meadow. So this is a red fescue. And right now it's dormant because it's dormant in the summer, as would make sense for California native, because it's not getting watered. So that's why it's kind of looks like straw or whatever, kind of yellowed and dry looking. That's fine. In the winter, then is really when it's growing and vibrant, and it has this kind of wavy pattern in the winter. So it's just beautiful to look at. And again, the maintenance is we cut it back really twice a year. So again, nice, great use of natives and adds a lot of visual interest as well. So let's see what else we have. Oh, one other thing I just want to point out. We have this is a native rose, native California rose. Again, so, very happy. So I probably have to keep it in check a bit. It's got a pink flower, and in the fall, it's got a huge rose hips. And so, of course, you can, if you want to, you can dry them if you take out the seeds, or I've made a syrup out of them as well. So that sort of provides, again, another both edible and native landscape. We have another table grape here, and then another coffee berry here, and then a Camise pear. And then we'll just do a quick kind of walkthrough of this is really our kind of intensive orchard area over here. This is where I think there are 10 trees. So, but we keep them pruned very small. That's the idea. And so we have a few apples there and a couple pears and a quince. And then we've got 3 citrus, mandarin oranges, 1 clementine over there. So what's great about that is, of course, since they're evergreen, we keep the green going in the winter. We have some mound beds for winter squash. So to take advantage of the ability to, in another month, they'll be all over the place in terms of their growth pattern. So taking full advantage of the yard that we have. And then again, some grasses in between mixed in here, and some California fescues, the native fescues. And then, a fig over here. We've got this is a tree collard. So this is a perennial, edible perennial. And then finally, I just want to point out we have this bamboo that's Bambusa oldhamii. It's a mountain timber bamboo. It's non-invasive, so it's a clumping bamboo. And then one of the reasons we love this, aside from the fact that it provides some shade over here, is we'll be able to harvest these trunks and be able to use them for construction projects and so forth. So We have under here an understory native plant, a snowberry, has beautiful white flowers in the fall. And I think with that, we're about done. Kathy, is that?
Okay, so somebody just asked, who takes care of this garden? Do you maintain it yourselves or do you have someone come in and help you?
We do it ourselves. So she has, as Ed says, I have a slave, so it's both of us. But
so I want to say that last year, well, I love the agapanthus story. Like I'll be telling that agapanthus story for a long time. So thank you for sharing that with us. And last year when Ed and Ann had their garden on the tour, the award-winning Stanley Middle School jazz band came and played under their veranda at the backyard. It was just my favorite
Yeah.
part of the tour, getting to listen to the kids play in this beautiful, beautiful garden.
Yeah, I'm watching a butterfly fly around. So
if I may chime in here, and a couple questions came in about watering. Both, do you water your natives and how do you balance watering between the fruit trees and your natives?
So great question. Actually, I meant to do that. So we did put in irrigation with the landscaping with 4 dimensions, and we have watered these last 2 years just to establish the natives, and so that's the netafim that we put in is really in the areas where we have natives. So, and that though, this year we're going to try not to water because that seems like the point is to not water because we're hoping, although I think I'm going to check with Michael on it, but we're hoping they're established enough for that. As far as the vegetables, then we have a lot of drip lines. So soaker hoses rather, that Ed just kind of puts together with just regular old garden hose here, for example. And then he, bought this soaker hose from Amazon, I think, or whatever, and then put this together. So for the edibles, then we water them sort of separately on it with a timer.
Okay, good. Well, unfortunately, we need to move on, but I want to thank you. Your garden was beautiful. It's so interesting. I love how you have mixed both the edibles and the natives to such good use.
I know, they look beautiful too. That's what's amazing to me. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Ed and Ann.